Welcome to the podcast summary of University of Central Florida. UCF started with a very specific job: help build the talent pipeline for America's space push on Florida's East Coast. Since then, it's turned into one of the biggest universities in the country, with a footprint that stretches from aerospace and defense to hospitality, medicine, and a pretty unusual campus identity. That growth brought real influence and economic heft, but it also brought one of the more damaging financial oversight scandals in recent university history. So the story here is ambition, scale, and what happens when an institution grows fast enough to reshape a region. UCF was created in 1963 as Florida Technological University, and that name was not subtle. The point was to supply engineers and scientists for the expanding space program clustered around Kennedy Space Center and Cape Canaveral. So its location near the Space Coast wasn't just nice branding or a lucky map pin. It was part of the mission from the start. That identity never really went away. UCF still has deep ties to space and defense through the Florida Space Institute, NASA's Florida Space Grant Consortium, observatories and research centers, and partnerships with NASA, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, SpaceX, and L3 Harris. Even the symbolism sticks to the script. The motto is, "Reach for the stars." The seal features Pegasus, and a 2015 workforce study named UCF the nation's leading supplier of engineers to the aerospace and defense industries. The growth numbers are kind of wild. UCF had 1,948 students in its first year in 1968. By 2024, it had more than 68,000. And by fall 2025, it was at roughly 70,674 students. That makes it the second largest on-campus student body among U.S. public universities, which is a long way from a small commuter technology school. A lot changed along the way. Enrollment jumped by more than 60% between 2000 and 2016, and the university expanded into an R1 research institution with 13 colleges, more than 230 degree offerings, and campuses across Central Florida. The shift was intentional. Under President Trevor Colborn, the school built out business, education, liberal arts, health, and hospitality programs. And at that point, Florida Technological University had become too narrow to describe what it actually was. That's why the school became the University of Central Florida in 1978. The main campus has one of those layouts people either find charming or slightly disorienting the first time they visit. It's built around pedestrian-friendly concentric circles: Gemini Boulevard, Apollo Circle, Mercury Circle, and Pegasus Circle. Inside the main ring, the academic buildings are arranged in pie-shaped sections. It's unusual enough that the source identifies only one other concentric circle university campus design: UC Irvine. There's also a very Central Florida layer to this. The layout was influenced by plans associated with Walt Disney, which feels exactly like the kind of local detail Orlando would produce. And the branding evolved too. The Pegasus seal stands for Limitless Possibilities. The school colors are black and gold, and the Knights mascot eventually replaced earlier experiments, including the Citronaut and the unofficial Vincent, the vulture. Honestly, Citronaut sounds like a mascot dream someone had after too little sleep and too much orange juice. What really stands out about UCF is how tightly its academics and research are wired into the industries around it. This isn't just a campus with departments, it's a regional strategy. Right next to the university is the Central Florida Research Park, home to more than 116 corporations and more than 10,000 jobs. Defense organizations there manage billions of dollars in contracts. UCF reported $215.3 million in research and development spending in 2018. Ranking 107th nationally, with major strengths in modeling and simulation, optics and photonics, aerospace, engineering, digital media, health, and computer science. There's a broader economic effect too. A 2009 estimate credited UCF alone with $1.96 billion in economic activity and 26,000 jobs. Add in the research park, and that rose to $3.84 billion and 46,000 jobs. You can see the same logic in its specialized outposts. Rosen College of Hospitality Management sits near Orlando's tourism industry. The Lake Nona Health Sciences campus is embedded in a medical city with hospitals and biomedical research institutes. The College of Medicine launched with a huge signal of ambition. In 2009, it got more than 40,300 applications for just 41 charter class positions, making it the most selective medical school in the country that year, and every student in that first class got a full 4-year scholarship worth more than $160,000. What's interesting is that UCF has tried to be both broad access and increasingly selective, which is not an easy balance to pull off at this size. Its first-time freshman admit rate dropped from 61% in fall 2005 to about 42% in fall 2020. The freshmen who enrolled in 2020 averaged a 1/3 SAT, a 28.7 ACT, and a 4.18 weighted GPA. At the same time, student outcomes held up in meaningful ways. The freshman retention rate for the 2010 cohort was 87%. 71% of undergraduates received financial aid, and 90% got scholarships through Florida's Bright Futures program. Some programs are limited access simply because demand outruns capacity, especially in fields like music, theater, dance, medical laboratory sciences, and communication. So the university is massive, but some corners of it are still very competitive and pretty intimate. The hardest chapter in this story is the financial oversight scandal, because it cut against the university's image of disciplined growth and competence. A major flashpoint was Trevor Colborne Hall, a $38 million building that was constructed partly with money meant for educational and operating expenses. Investigations found that UCF had misspent or planned to misspend more than $85 million between 2013 and 2018. A later report put the misdirected funds balance across additional projects at $99.61 million. The fallout was severe. CFO Bill Merck resigned. The university severed ties with longtime president John Hitt. His successor Dale Whitaker resigned after just 7 months. Board of Trustees Chair Marcos Marchena also departed. The state fined UCF 120% of the misused funds, which is the kind of penalty that makes clear this wasn't treated as an accounting oops. It was a major institutional failure. Athletics followed the same larger UCF pattern. Start relatively late, then scale up fast. The program launched in 1979 and eventually rose to FBS status and the Big 12, with men's soccer competing separately in the Sun Belt Conference. The most argued over moment came in 2017, when UCF finished with the only undefeated FBS season and was named national champion by the Colley Matrix. Even though it did not make the college football playoff, Alabama was the champion named by all other selectors. So yes, this remains a very online conversation. The facilities boom mattered too. UCF opened a 46,000-seat football stadium and a 10,000-seat basketball arena in the same year along with Knights Plaza. That helped push the school toward a more traditional residential campus experience instead of just a giant commuter institution with a parking habit. UCF's story is unusually coherent for a university. This big, it was built to serve a region, and it still does, just on a much larger and more complicated scale. Space, defense, tourism, health, big-time athletics, giant enrollment, and one very memorable mascot backstory. For better and worse, this is a university that never really did small. This episode was generated by Podkey. Create your own at podkey.fm.